Oops. Okay, this is not working. Hello. Hi, it's me, Dr. Catherine Toomer on Tuesday Talks. Um, so today's my birthday, so I'm just going to say happy birthday to me because this is actually about aging and aging gracefully. And I spend a lot of time on Facebook, and many of you will probably see my comments if you're on Facebook, countering some of the gaslighting that happens to people as they start complaining about their weight gain as they get older. And everyone keeps saying to them, just accept it. It's just part of getting older. It's just part of life. Well, it's not. It does happen, but there's a reason that it happened, and there's a reason why it should be addressed. And there's no reason to have to accept it. So there are some things about getting older that we should accept. I mean, our skin's going to change, our eyesight's going to change. Our joints may ache a little bit. We're going to get some wear and tear because there's some things that happen as we get older. You use joints and they start having issues. Some of those things, yes, you can treat. Some of those things you have to accept. There are loosening of skin and other things. And even if you don't accept them, you can still get surgery about them. But there's some things, though, that happen as we get older that are an indication of some health issues. And so we should not accept them. And weight gain is one of those. So the reason that we should pay attention to weight gain is because it's a symptom of something else. That something else, as we get older, is glucose dysregulation. And a lot of people immediately say, when someone says, I'm starting to gain weight through the middle, I can't seem to get rid of it. It's coming on no matter what I do. I do the exact same thing I've always done. So why am I gaining weight? And a lot of people are just like, well, you just need to exercise more or you need to eat less. Well, and they're like, I'm doing that. I mean, I have people who are telling me they're eating 500 calories a day, which is way too low. And it's just screwing up their metabolism. And so I'm like, no, you don't drop your calories. You don't up your exercise. In fact, if you up your cardiovascular exercise, it actually makes it worse. So I'm going to talk about exactly what it is and what you can do about it and how to counter some of the naysayers and some of the people who gaslight you in the process of you wanting to lose some pounds. So the reason why it's important to pay attention when you start gaining weight through the middle is because it is an indication of glucose dysregulation for whatever reason. There are several reasons why this can happen. One of them is menopause. One of them is a drop in testosterone in men. The other is high chronic stress. Pregnancy can do it, especially if someone had any type of sugar issues in their pregnancy, gestational diabetes. It happens with polycystic ovary syndrome. It happens with metabolic syndrome, which is where you have, high insulin, high blood pressure, and high weight all at the same time. And the weight actually comes from the glucose dysregulation. That's what causes the metabolic syndrome, not the other way around, which is what many, many people will say, even many physicians, unfortunately. And so when those things hit our genetics, our predisposition for diabetes, then what happens is that our body goes into high cortisol. And as our cortisol raises or becomes unopposed, then that cortisol causes insulin resistance. That insulin resistance means that the one signal for the brain is not getting into the cell for the brain to know what to do next. So what happens is the brain thinks that you're not getting food. And so it starts telling you eat more. It starts telling you to eat a lot of carbs, eat a lot of sugar. And then it takes all of that and turns it into fat because it says, I'm starving, so I need to store this in case I starve later to keep me from starving completely. And so that's why it's really important that as we start gaining weight through the middle to find out the reason. There's a reason, and that reason is on the same continuum as diabetes, which means it has the same complications as diabetes: high cholesterol, heart disease, renal disease, blindness, dementia. And all these things happen. And the only sign that we have that this is happening is weight gain through our middle. So, no, it is not aging gracefully. It's actually being in denial of something that could very well be causing and shortening your life. And that's not aging gracefully, that's aging rapidly. And we don't want to do that. So, before I continue, I just want to say thank you for all the happy birthdays, Marcia and Elizabeth, Cindy, and I really appreciate it. I am 60 years old today, and I age very gracefully, but I do not accept my metabolic dysregulation, and therefore I treat it. So, just to reiterate, our estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. This is cortisol. This is our estrogen, progesterone. And what it does is it keeps it in check in our brain, in our body, in everything. As those three start to drop, cortisol stays and it becomes unopposed and it starts driving everything in our body. Cortisol is toxic. It is a toxic hormone in our body when it's not kept in check. And that's what causes the problem. And so when, again, cortisol goes up, it causes insulin resistance. Insulin resistance causes weight gain through the middle. So, aging gracefully does not mean accepting weight gain. And you don't have to be overweight for this to happen. I too often see people who, one, run a weight loss journey, have lost a significant amount of weight. They start gaining it back. Everyone tells them it's because they've changed something they're doing, and they're not. The other is someone who maybe has been small their whole life and then suddenly gains 10% of their body weight. You have someone who's 5 feet tall, like I am. Could easily weigh 100 to 110 pounds. And then all of a sudden they jump to 130 pounds. And everyone's like, but you're still small. 130 is not too much. But that's 30% of their body weight. They just gained 30% of their body weight. That we know is a health problem. We know that losing even just 5% of body weight improves health when overweight or having obesity. So what do you think happens when you gain 30%? No matter what your BMI, no matter what your weight, it's dangerous and it causes problems, and therefore should not be accepted just because people say, well, you're getting older and it should happen. And everybody gains weight as they get older. Your metabolism changes. You're losing muscle. It's not okay to lose muscle. So I'm going to talk about how to counter it. 1, muscle building. Focus on muscle toning. It is absolutely imperative to maintain metabolism with muscle. Muscle is our powerhouse. Muscle helps us maintain our balance. It helps maintain our strength. It is what determines our independence later in life. Wherever you are now, start building muscle if you haven't already. Doesn't matter how old you are, there are exercises that you can do. If you are young enough and able and have the mobility to do core exercises, that's really important also, because that's what helps with balance. Falling later in life is a killer. When you break a hip, then usually the mortality rate within 6 months of breaking a hip is very high. The number one cause of hip fractures is falls. So doing things that help prevent falls and also strengthen your bones. Using muscle helps strengthen the bones that they're attached to. So that's also very important. The other is trying to get your cortisol down as best as you can, which means meditation, deep yoga breathing, something that's very dedicated time and effort and skill. It is a skill that has to be learned. And so whatever you can do to get your cortisol level down, to learn the mechanisms for doing that. And at the end of this, I'm actually going to show you a type of breathing. It's called box breathing, and I'm going to show you at the end. And so that's really very important. You can find a lot of information on YouTube. It's really simple, but it just takes practice. It's not easy. So simple is not always easy. So we're going to talk about that. Um, the other thing is medication. Um, well, I always talk about the 4 M's. People have heard me say this before. So you have muscle, you've got mindfulness slash meditation. You have then meals, which would be making sure you eat high protein meals, high protein, healthy fats, lower carbs. Doesn't have to be low carb. It just means that whatever carbs you eat, you should eat twice as much protein at the same time. And then the fourth one is medication. If you're a man or a woman and your hormones have dropped to the point where your cortisol is unopposed, then replacing those hormones is necessary, as imperative to maintain the health of your body's organs, your heart, your brain, your kidneys, your eyes. And if you are rapidly gaining weight, then a low dose GLP-1 medication can be helpful. And when I say low dose GLP-1 medication, what I mean is semaglutide or tirzepatide, or even loratadine if your insurance won't cover them. And so that's Victoza / Saxenda, Ozempic / Wegovy, Mounjaro / Zepbound. Those medications in low doses help reduce the effect of cortisol. It corrects the glucose dysregulation that cortisol causes. It also reverses the fat production. And that's why they cause weight loss. Weight loss is simply a side effect of correcting a metabolic dysregulation. And that's how they work. And so the combination, so my philosophy is, why wait until somebody is diabetic? Why wait until someone's joints are in pain? Why wait until someone's inflammation is just completely out of control before doing something about it? Regardless of BMI, regardless of weight, if someone has gained a certain percentage of their body weight, it is my opinion that they should be treated. Now, mind you, many physicians will not agree with me, just as many physicians didn't agree with me 15 years ago when I was using GLP-1s to help people with metabolic weight loss. And then we got Saxenda, and everyone's like, oh, I guess you knew something. Well, yeah, I did. And I know something now. And I think that the combination of hormone replacement therapy, when it's safe, which is safer than what many people fear, it does not increase your risk of cancer. What it does is make certain types of cancer that are hormone sensitive, it may make those worse, but you have to have the cancer first. It doesn't make you have the cancer. There's also 2 different types of hormone therapy. There is systemic, which basically are pills or injections, and then you have vaginal for women. Vaginal hormones, depending on the delivery and the dose, does not act systemically. The ones that do are in very high doses, and they're in the form of a ring that goes around your cervix that delivers the medication. Most of the others are just simply local, and what they do is they protect your vaginal lining, which also prevents urinary tract infections. Another killer for older women. And so, because when our vaginal lining thins, it becomes very easy for bacteria to then get into our bladder. When bacteria goes into your bladder, it can travel up the tubes to your kidneys. And once the kidneys get infected, it's called pyelonephritis. And then that bacteria can leak out into your bloodstream. And that is called urosepsis. Urosepsis kills. It puts people into shock. And often the symptoms of having that are you don't feel it. So not everyone feels their bladder infection. Not everybody feels their kidney infection. In fact, it may just feel like back pain. And so that's why it's just so important. That's why I harp on this so much, because there are just so many ways in which not paying attention, not on your part, mind you, this is something um, um, that can happen with anyone. And I see a lot of questions coming up, and before they lose them, I'm going to start talking about them. Is stress makes us bloated? Absolutely. Stress, because of the high cortisol that causes insulin resistance, it also causes leaky gut. And so leaky gut can actually cause a problem when bacteria isn't there to do the job it's supposed to do, and that's to help break down food and pull nutrients out, or break down food and then use the leftover waste for voiding or for having bowel movements. So yeah, stress can absolutely cause bloating. There's a reason why people get ulcers when they're under stress for a long time, because it affects our GI system. What about Hashimoto? Hashimoto is, for those who don't know, is when your body produces antibodies against your thyroid hormone. So your body puts out the hormone like it's supposed to, but then your body sees it as a foreign substance, and then attacks it and breaks it down. So what that does is it puts the body into hypothyroidism, even though your body's producing enough thyroid hormone. And so usually it's very difficult to treat, because you treat hypothyroidism with thyroid medication, but your body has antibodies against that medication. And so there are usually it's an autoimmune disease or condition, and so it has to be treated as that. Now, I am not an endocrinologist. I don't treat a lot of Hashimoto's. I do find it, and I do refer people. But when it comes to the actual nuances and the newness of any new treatment, that would be an endocrinologist who would tell you. You say neurosepsis. Well, urosepsis. So uro, basically like urine sepsis. Neurosepsis would suggest brain infection. What I'm talking about is a blood infection coming from the kidneys. So I'm going to try and go up a little bit, because I think I may have missed some of the questions. No, basically what I see is just people wishing me happy birthday. Thank you. Um, and I am having a really good birthday, especially for being here. I mean, I guess I could have said, oh, I'm going to take the evening off. Nah, this is fun for me. So um, Marcia said, what about bike riding? It really just depends. So when you ride bikes, it can be a cardiovascular exercise, or it can be a muscle toning exercise. The higher the resistance, and the higher the resistance, the better the better the, I guess, the, what do you call it? The more muscle you build. The resistance causes muscle building. So when riding a bike, you want your resistance to be high, or ride on hills, or simulate riding on a hill if you have a Peloton. That is the way to build your muscles. You don't want it to be a fast, high heart rate ride, because that's cardiovascular. And that cardiovascular exercise, our body cannot tell the difference between being chased or exercise. So when we, and being chased means our fight or flight reaction, our cortisol reaction is triggered. So it's always better to do low impact and muscle work. Any other questions? So again, aging gracefully does not mean accepting weight gain. Aging gracefully means enjoying the changes of our body that happen, that are natural changes, loosening of our skin, changing in our eyesight, maybe even slowing down a little bit our joints, and our joints start to bother us a little bit more. Even some hair issues may come, but that's even stuff that you can treat, but still. But when it comes to weight gain, particularly around the middle, that is a sign that there is glucose dysregulation, and that glucose dysregulation puts everyone at risk for the same thing as if they're diabetes. They're diabetic, or have diabetes. So it is important to address it and treat it if necessary. And if you find this helpful, share it with your friends. Please follow me on YouTube. Um, and ask your questions after the videos. I'm very happy to answer them. Also, write to me at help@drtoomer.com if you have questions or if you want for me to do a strategy and plan assessment for you to see, what it is that's going on and what you could do next. So, if you don't have any more questions, good night. Thank you for the birthday wishes. I am having a wonderful birthday, and this is 60. This is what 60 looks like. And so I hope that um, I'm an example of aging gracefully because I actually love the fact that I am getting older. It is a privilege. And I thank all of you for being here. So good night.